Pretty Little Liars, the television series, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provided a list of content warnings in the episode description. Welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have 2 new episodes from season 6 for you of Pretty Little Liars. We're getting one step closer to the reveal of A.
But it has your favorite reveal.
What do you mean? Oh, yes.
You're
yes.
like, there wasn't any big reveals this episode.
I was like, this is not my favorite A reveal, and don't you dare put that curse on me. I do. This is not what I want to be known for. No,
these episodes have your favorite.
So these are some of my favorite for this A, reveals. There's nothing better though than, of course, like the Toby and the Ezra reveal. Right. 10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. But for where we are now, the Jason being gaslit about his imaginary friend is a plot line that I have been waiting for since I remembered it like a year ago.
It's wild. And I was not prepared for him to go when he's going, Charlie. And then him to turn to Spencer being like, yeah, he was my imaginary friend.
I was like,
This is bringing me back again. It's, I'm going to have to look this up. The movie with Robert De Niro, and it's like a horror movie. I'm ruining it. And there's, I think it's Dakota Fanning, and she has like an imaginary friend that's like killing people.
Oh my God.
And there's like a twist on all that. But that's what I think of every time.
That's wild.
Yeah, maybe I could have it wrong. I think it's called Hide and Seek.
But regardless, yes, I do love this because I'm just like, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. The De Laurentiis way. Allison stood no chance of being honest. Watching this again from an adult perspective, I'm like, no wonder Allison's a menace.
Okay, so... Sorry, real quick, looked at the synopsis for Hide and Seek, the 2005 horror movie.
I did not watch this movie. I was 12. That would have been...
It also has like multiple endings, if I remember correctly. We'll get into that in a sec. Following this is just the synopsis, so if you want to watch this movie, we're not spoiling it. Following the suicide of his wife, psychologist David Calloway, Robert De Niro, decides to take his daughter, Emily, Dakota Fanning, away from New York City to a house in the country for a fresh start.
Us Emilys were always disturbed.
Unfortunately, Emily is too grief-stricken to really appreciate her new surroundings, and she hasn't made any friends save Charlie, who is imaginary.
Oh, so this was lifted. This is a nod.
There's too many coincidences now. Like, we have the red line connecting Charlie's and Charles across the different...
I think there's lots of like inspiration from Gen X more era things that ended up in Pretty Little Liars. I guess that's kind of millennial era, older millennial.
Yeah, this is 2005.
I guess like that, but that older millennial, because like we were younger millennials, so I always think like we're the core group, but we're not. We're towards the tail end.
No.
Regardless, though, I think there's a lot of like references that weren't applicable to those of us that were watching the show that were really applicable to like the older generation. Like I think some of the episode titles and stuff too.
Yeah, like this did well. Like it got 127 million. Rotten Tomatoes is like 12%. So.
Oh, so it's probably good.
I won't go that far.
All of my favorite movies are probably under 60% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You could really. I don't know why I know so much about this movie and why I always think about this movie. I don't think I've even seen this movie.
That's amazing.
I know that it has multiple endings that were like. Okay, let's see, because there was, the film has a total of 5 different endings, and there's the U.S. theatrical version, and then there was another 4 including on the DVD.
Oh.
And I think it's just like different flavors of the ending, but the same twist remains the same, and I think you could guess the twist from like a mile away. But
he's not actually imaginary. Did I spoil it?
I mean,
so it literally is giving us that.
It's really,
this is some good. I'm sorry for spoiling that for whoever wanted to watch that movie. I haven't seen it. I'm making guesses. Actually, I could be very wrong. You could watch it and tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean that's like the core of the movie, right? Is that the imaginary friend
is committing murder.
So
it's
can't be imaginary.
Yeah. Imaginary friends don't commit crimes.
Though
I did tell my mom that my imaginary friends drew on the furniture instead of me. But I was in my gaslight era. I knew I was lying. I was not like, oh, they did it. I was like, they did it.
I saw them come in and do this.
Because my mom was really supportive of having imaginary friends and like that kind of stuff. So I was like, she obviously believes in this.
You're like, I've got this now. I've got this figured out.
They were all girls and they had a grandma who drove them around on a motorcycle with a sidecar. And we went places. They would drive next to us. Are you going to ask me to speak to? There was one boy.
My favorite one.
Mind you, these are imaginary friends. So I was very young, like 4, 5 and under.
Not to step on that, it was very cute that they'd be driving along on a motorcycle in a sidecar next to your car.
And I'd wave at them. I'm sure people in other cars were like, "What the fuck?"
I'm preempting too much.
There was one boy. Well, there had been one boy, but his name was Kaka, and we flushed him down the toilet.
My favorite.
That was key, like
when
4-year-old humor. Like I was like, haha, poop.
Right when you're given a name like Kaka, you.
Well, yeah.
Only got one purpose.
I have been a misandrist since I was born.
Oh, the Kakas in your life, A
kid, but I came out pretty feminist, I think, as a child.
I think so.
I was like, we don't need the boy. What are we going to do with him? I think someone once asked me, they're like, well, are there any boys? And I said, there was.
Why don't you ask about him?
That was like improv too. Like there was no planning on my part. Oh.
You're like, his name's Kaka.
I was a funny little kid.
But yeah, if someone else has, if you've
seen hide and seek, please let us know if we're on the right path here.
Yeah, or if there's just some wider thing that these all are pulling from for the name Charlie and Charles. Because again, this is also connected back to Riverdale with Charles. He's not imaginary, but like neither is Charles in this. So like,
yeah, but then he's also there's the two different. He's not Chip and Charles, and which one's real?
Chip, yeah, the Chip. Good program.
What a mess.
There's a podcast that does it. And I know I didn't know about it before we were like talking like about like other shows we could do for this. And it's like, I don't think I could hold it together enough to do a Riverdale podcast.
I think I could do it until I could not finish this last season.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to finish it.
And I mean, we could, but there's
too much.
There's so much.
And it doesn't matter. There's so much this show, a lot of the plot doesn't matter, but there's so much in Riverdale. Though I did really like the superhero season.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the show we're watching.
Yeah, fair enough. And just also the other thing that I think about this, I'm like, am I going to like this show when it's been Riverdale in like the modern context? I don't know. We'll see.
What do you mean?
The Original Sin. So it's by the Riverdale guy.
Oh.
I'm assuming it's more Riverdale'd up.
I read the synopsis and like the mystery still sounds good. I think it's just it's almost more Sabrina than Riverdale.
Okay.
It's like gorier from what I've read.
Right. Yeah. And okay.
I don't know if that makes it. I don't know if Sabrina is the right word because I don't know if it's as campy. Because Sabrina was fun because it was intentionally camp.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and Riverdale is too. There's just so much by volume.
The first season of Riverdale, I feel like, was really good.
Yeah. And then it's just a different show from then on.
Mm-hmm.
We could do the first season. That's a mystery. And I mean, there are mysteries in the other ones.
Did Jughead get burned? What happened at boarding school? What happened to the babies over the fire? Why did Chad Michael Murray get in the rocket ship?
What's up with the Dungeons and Dragons thing? That's a season.
Oh yeah, and the parents and the Dungeons and Dragons thing. That one's interesting in like a bad way, Yeah. What's bad?
What's the serial killer name? Black something. That's another one. Not Trash Bag Man. But...
Betty's dad, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, spoilers for everybody. Hope you watch Riverdale.
The title of this episode should just be spoilers.
It's Riverdale season 2.
Oh yeah, not the trash bag killer. That's at the end, but
that's not a mystery. It's just a guy.
I don't remember what his serial killer name is.
It's like the black coat or something.
The black hoodie? No.
I know, that's what I keep calling this. Like for a while. And then it was
matter.
Allison.
Okay, so
we're getting into the synopsis. See, let's get it back on track with an outline here. Season 6, Episode 3, Episode 123, Songs of Experience. Spencer talks to Emily about Sarah. Sarah doesn't think Andrew is the one that kidnapped them all. Spencer wants details on why, but Emily's like, she didn't say. Emily says Andrew was in school the past few years. How could he also keep keep people hostage? Keep a hostage is what I was trying to say.
Keep a hostage.
Yeah, so then I got tripped up because I was like, why would I write a lower,
Yeah.
Emily is now on the phone with Arya. This is like we cut between each of them, like talking to one another on the phone. And Arya doesn't want to even think about Andrew not being A. Arya then talks to Hannah. Mona's now out of town with her mother. Hannah's going back to school and also thinks it has to be Andrew and tells Arya that all the rest of them have to come to school too. She doesn't want to go back alone. She hangs up and tears Andrew's senior page out of the yearbook. Sarah, who is staying with Emily, stops Emily before she leaves for school, asking if she can stay at the Fieldses until Emily gets back from school. Pam was going to call Sarah's mom to have her picked up, and Emily hands her a burner that she could use to text if she needs someone to talk to. Sarah is worried about re-entering society because they only know her through the news, and she's upset because she was described as feral. Sarah freaks out for coming to the Fieldses, and Emily invites her to make breakfast with her and Pam instead of going to school. Fitz brings Arya food at the brew as she's worried about going back to school. Fitz asks if she's ready to go to school, and Arya's like, no. He's like, well, why don't you stay here? Maybe write. And she's like, no writing. He's like, well, you're safe here. And she's like, thanks. Spencer's at Allie's encouraging her to make her dad talk about Charles, but Allie doesn't want to. Spencer wonders if it's Andrew. If it is Andrew, why would A have all this info on Charles? Allie tells her to leave. Spencer says she's going to talk to Jason, and Allie's like, leave him out of this. And I don't want anyone else. I don't need anybody else hating me. And Spencer's like, why would he hate you? Allie's like, that's how this works, isn't it? It always comes down to me, and I knew you were kidnapped because of me. Spencer's like, well, I don't believe that, and I don't think you're the problem. Hannah waits outside the school, but no one shows up. But Dr. Sullivan does, who we couldn't remember her name last episode. Turns out she called Ashley to reach out to Hannah before, and she's there consulting with the school counselors 2 days a week and encourages Hannah to stop by. The bell rings and no one shows up, so Hannah goes in.
Do school counselors have consultants?
Not that I ever saw.
I don't think we had school counselors, so we had guidance counselors, but that was not the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. We only had guidance counselors. Maybe in the year.
Maybe she helps the guidance counselors. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who guides the guidance counselors?
What happened to that guy? Remember the guy who wanted Arya to talk and make nice with Mona?
Yeah. What happened to that guy? Maybe he's getting consulted. He seems like he would try and organize that type of thing. He was a go-getter. Maybe in 2015 they had better counselors than we did. Arya's looking through photos for the yearbook and zooms in on one of a doll in her bedroom. She looks at photos of Andrew and wonders who he is. Fitz comes over to check on her and notices that she shut her laptop suddenly. And he's like, why are you hiding? And she opens it back up and she's like, I'm not hiding anything. And it's like, shows him the picture of Andrew she was looking at. And it's like, who do you think he really is? And Fitz is like, well, what do you want to know? Hannah meets with Dr. Sullivan in a classroom. She thinks Andrew just hated the friends and their friendship and wanted to break them up, and has a flashback to the switches and the room. Dr. Sullivan asks her for a session, and Hannah says not without everybody else. Dr. Sullivan's like, well, if you can get everybody to come, I'll find time. Arya calls a doctor's office, and Fitz pretends to be a police officer and asks for information on Andrew, like prescriptions, his date of birth, where he was born, social security number. The office doesn't give much, but it does confirm that the info is sealed with his adoption records. Bum, bum, bum. A ball bounces in Allison's way, and it turns out Lorenzo is a youth soccer coach that includes kids from the church. Allie's like, oh, why is it only guys? What happened to the girls here? And he's like, well, it's bad to be... He gives some excuse about why it's not co-ed. And then he says that the girls' team lost their leader and asks Allison to volunteer. She's like, I don't know, being a leader of girls hasn't worked out for me, and all the moms would hate it. Lorenzo says, let me worry about that. And we cut to Toby watching them from the other side of the glass inside a coffee shop. Pam, Emily, and Sarah are mostly having a good time. Pam asks about Sarah starting over, and Sarah says, yes, I have to. My mom gave all my stuff away. She said that she needed space. Emily says she can have whatever fits, and Pam asks about her running away from home. Sarah says she couldn't pretend to be happy anymore and talks about her dad leaving, and then Emily gets a call from Hannah. Toby and Spencer are cuddling when Toby asks her to start... He asks her to talk to Allison to keep away from Lorenzo. Spencer says, isn't that their business? And Toby says, she's still selfish. And Spencer's like, well, she actually saved us. Toby says, Lorenzo doesn't know what she's capable of. If you completely trust her, I'll drop this. Hannah is outside Emily's house and saying, climb in the car. We're going to see Dr. Sullivan. Emily says, no, I have to take care of Sarah. Arya arrives, and Hannah's like, oh, good, you got my text. She's like, no, I have news. Andrew was adopted. She didn't tell Fitz about Charles, though. They think Andrew was a De Laurentiis before he was a Campbell. Spencer visits Jason, who laments his dad suing a bunch of people. Spencer asks him about Charles and that they haven't gone to the police yet, and that his dad says there wasn't a Charles. Jason says he doesn't know one either, and he thinks Andrew did it to mess with Allison, like set up the blocks. And Spencer gets a text from Hannah that says SOS and to meet at Dr. Sullivan's. As Spencer goes to leave, Jason then like, Charlie. Well, yeah, I do know a Charlie. My dad said that my dad did tell the truth because Charlie doesn't exist. The other three friends are at Dr. Sullivan's waiting on Spencer. She arrives and Jason told her who Charles was. Charlie was Jason's imaginary friend. Hannah had one named Mr. Biscuit. One day, Mr. De Laurentiis came to Jason and told him Charlie had to go away, and then he was gone. Arya wonders why Mr. De Laurentiis wouldn't just say that when Allison asked. They want to tell Dr. Sullivan everything. Emily then gets a video chat from Sarah and opens it to find someone else holding the phone over Sarah as she's asleep. A gloved hand appears with the knife, and then it switches to a text that says, mention me and someone dies. You have 30 seconds to leave that room, and a countdown starts. We cut to Dr. Sullivan, who leaves her office and finds the waiting room deserted. The friends arrive at Emily's house and find the bed empty, but then Sarah surprises them from behind, coming from the shower. Spencer, Arya, and I also, there was a mention earlier, I think, in this episode where it's like, Sarah's in the shower right now.
She takes a lot of showers.
Shower count 2. Spencer, Arya, and Hannah sit in the living room wondering who made the phone call if Andrew is in jail. Pam arrives home distraught. She was at the police station, and Andrew is being released and not being charged with anything. He has an alibi for Mona being kidnapped, and his appendix was being removed when Sarah was taken, and he should be out in a few hours. Jason and his dad are working, and Jason's... I just love this scene. Jason's just staring his dad down.
It's got the weirdest lighting.
Yes. You pointed out the lighting, you're like, what is happening? And he's just like, It's good. It's a good episode.
See, and you were worried that we were going to lose our fun.
No, it's here. It's here in full force.
Mostly in the case of Toby and Lorenzo, though.
Oh,
Toby's protectiveness
boy.
of Lorenzo is like, we'll talk about it later. But
So good. It's my favorite part. Even Charlie can't match that. The friends gather at Allison's and grill her about Charlie. Hannah then gets a turn to tell her dad lied. Allison says that Jason always said that something was missing from this family. They wonder if there's proof of Charlie somewhere. Allison takes them on a tour of her parents' hiding places. Hannah's on the phone with Dr. Sullivan, who's curious why they all left, and Hannah's like, we all had an emergency, and says she'll call tomorrow to make an appointment. Allison leads Spencer outside to look in the pots on the essentially
the planters on the...
Planters, thank you. I couldn't think of it at the time.
Planters on the banister.
And I still couldn't think of a word now. And they start digging in the pots, the planters. And then Allison says Toby isn't going to like this. You get that Andrew's not the A, because then he gets to go back to hating me now that you're not safe. Spencer's like, he doesn't hate you. And Allison's like, have you met Lorenzo? He's really nice. He must have told Lorenzo all about me. And Spencer's like, I don't know if he's talked to Lorenzo about you. I haven't met him. Allison says, I met him when he was with Toby and then again at church. I know. Shocker. But do you think I could be with someone like that? And Spencer's like, well, everybody deserves a second chance. Don't waste this one. Arya digs through receipts in the sewing room and finds nothing. She then turns off the light but notices a jar of buttons. She pours it out and then grabs another jar of buttons. And inside the second jar of buttons is a wrapped photo of Jessica and the boys that it seems to be taken from the day of the home movie. That was inside A's lair. The friends review the photo and Allison says, you're smart to look in the button jar. She says her dad will be home soon. You should all go. She'll find out what it means and call you all. The friends leave and see Andrew leaving the police station. Arya goes to confront him despite protests from Spencer. Tells her to stay away from him. Arya says, "I'm really glad you're out." Andrew says, you don't understand. I was looking for you. I was going to be the hero, like trying to find you. And instead, I end up in jail. So stay out of my way until I graduate. Toby and Lorenzo then come up behind them, and Toby's like, goes all cop mode and is just like, "Would you like a ride home, Mr. Campbell?" Andrew's like, "I'm not getting in a car with you two. Some towns have toxic dumps. Rosewood has you." Yeah, I feel like you could come up with a better line there, Andrew, but he leaves and the friends introduce themselves to Lorenzo, and Spencer's like, "We're Allison's friends." And Toby calls him away and glares at Spencer.
There's so much tension.
There's so much like, "Get out of here. He's mine." Arya blames herself for Andrew getting arrested. Spencer's like, "It's not your fault. He was set up." They discuss how it's not your fault that he was a rube. They discuss how A wanted them to turn on each other. Hannah tells them about the switches. Like, she's like, "Were you also put in rooms and like forced to like do something that A told you to?" And they all realized that they were all put in rooms and forced to do this, but none of them were ever shocked. So it was just A testing them, much like the Milgram experiment, which I had to edit into the last episode. So just like flipping that a little bit, but without having the actor there, and instead it's like Jigsaw put it together. They understand he wanted them to know that they would hurt each other. Emily comes home and finds Sarah sitting in the dark with a short haircut, and then she's like, "What do you think?" Spencer comes home to Veronica worried, and Veronica talks about Andrew being released. When they questioned Andrew, he said that the friends all tricked him into helping them. "Is this true?" And Spencer's like, "It's made up of facts, but it isn't true." Veronica asks how going back to school was, and Spencer's like, "Don't do this. Don't try and catch me in a lie." Veronica says she just wants it all to end, and then Spencer says, "I think you'd rather this didn't happen, but it did, and I made it out alive, but I don't see this getting resolved neatly." We see Hannah has paint swatches in her room and some furniture back in there. Arya takes pictures of herself in the mirror and notices the doll left alone in the corner and takes some photos of it, almost like she feels a bit like a doll herself. Allison finds that the photo fits, that it was in the button jar fits into the missing spot on the photo album. What are the chances that a 4x6 photo would fit in a 4x6 photo spot? And there's another spot missing. This is what it drove me crazy when I was watching the episode. I'm like, you could put any photo there. Jason comes home. Jason comes home.
It's not true. Not if it wasn't facing the right way. What if it was horizontal or vertical instead of horizontal?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Did you think about that? What if it was a 5x7? You think you know everything?
Mr. Columbo.
You ordered wedding pictures once and now you know photo sizes.
Jason comes home and he asks her what's the matter, and she shows him the photo. Spencer grabs the anxiety pill that she had taken from Arya and hidden in her drawer, takes it, lays down on her bed. At the De Laurentiis house, their dad comes home and Jason's like, "We have questions. We want answers, not lies." And he's like, "Yo, you're really good at asking questions after you ruined this family, Jason." And then Allison's like, "It's not Jason's fault." And Mr. De Laurentiis tries to leave, but Jason blocks him. And Allison shows him the photo and is like, "Who is this other boy?" And then we cut to outside the house and don't hear what he says, but we see Allie freak out, and a black hoodie is standing outside watching.
But what Jason did to his father is considered harassment in the workplace. To physically block someone from exiting a room.
Oh, and since they work together, this applies.
Literally, when I watched that scene, I was like, that's harassment in the workplace, because that's how long I've worked in HR and had to watch so many. You know how many anti-harassment training videos I have done?
Right.
I have watched more than anyone ever should have to.
Mm-hmm. Because you have to view the training videos before they go to other people.
And you got to make sure everything works, and you got to make sure they're all compliant. And yeah.
I'm sure you really miss that.
I don't miss it at all, and I hope to never have to do it again, to be honest. But regardless, harassment or not, that's in the state of California. I don't know how it differs.
See, these are the lines where it gets fuzzy when you go into business with family.
It actually is, it's messy. First thought I had was the Hastings we know are wealthy. You know how we know they're wealthy? Their microwave is in their kitchen island. Only rich people keep their microwaves in their kitchen island.
Ooh la la.
Why does Sarah want to stay at Emily's so badly? Why Emily's out of all of the girls?
Well, Emily's the one that like went out of her. Okay, so I'll answer the second one first. Emily is the one that went out of her way to kind of be like, "Hey, who are you? Can you tell me about things?" Like, so she was the only one to like reach out. Everybody else was just kind of like, "Oh, there's that Sarah girl." Um, you don't want to go with Spencer. Spencer puts out bad vibes, and she's just gonna grill you.
I love her.
Oh, absolutely. Love Spencer. But if you were like in a delicate situation,
oh no.
No. And yeah, Emily's just a big softie. So it's like you can immediately pick up on that. There's I guess I'm still going with my theory that there's something up with her home life. It seems to lend more. There is more to uncover there, especially since like my mom sold all my stuff, which makes sense. But it's like not put in the way of. It's that she just needed space. She didn't tell her that like, oh, we gave up looking for you.
We thought you were gone forever. We couldn't pause our lives.
Right. And it sounds like things at home were really bad and her dad's not around. So that's my assumption. Okay. But this is also Pretty Little Liars, so there could be all sorts of things having nothing to do with her family, and her family's like, we've been missing Sarah. Where is she? If we get that reveal in the next episodes, like the next two, that like Pam gets a call and like Sarah's parents have been like worried about her and her parents are together, I wouldn't be surprised.
Fair enough.
But I have nothing to go on at the moment.
Would you be going back to school if you were the girls?
No.
I'd see if I could just wrap up the year at home.
Yeah.
Start college fresh. Like, I just give up.
Yeah. Unless I could see the only reason.
You want to like return to normalcy?
Or going off, well, yeah, that. And then that'd be a big one of just like being around. And then like how you mentioned last time of the violating their safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
You would probably want to spend less time at home.
That's true.
So I understand Hannah being Hannah is just like, we're dealing with this.
We're gutting it.
It's so funny. Texting everybody. We're going to Dr. Sullivan's. Get in.
I do love the forced group therapy.
It
doesn't work, obviously, and it can't work. You cannot force other people to do therapy with you. Uh-huh. But at least in this case, like she has good intentions, and like she's like, we got to get past this. We got to be okay.
Mm-hmm. And Hannah is very black and white. It's like, we need to do this if we're going to get past it. So we're doing this. Everybody's doing this. We have to go back to school at some point. So you're going back to school. We might as well just get it over with. And then we saw Dr. Sullivan. We're all going to Dr. Sullivan's. I just love when Arya pulls up at Emily's with news about Andrew. It's Hannah going, oh, good, you got my text.
Mm-hmm. And Arya's like, yeah, but I have something else. Speaking of Dr. Sullivan, you know who really needs to see Dr. Sullivan? Jason.
Yo, boy. That boy has been gaslit about
a mile and back.
Maybe more things than anybody else on this show. His parentage. Like, it does affect Spencer, but it's not the same thing that Jason's had to go through. He got dropped down an elevator shaft.
Never forget.
And then walked away. Had to escape from a hospital room. Then as
we learned in the next episode, his mom rejected him after the...
Right, his mom wouldn't let him stay. Oh, God. And then his parents gaslit him about not having a brother. Jason's been through it. This is like some of the reasons I've like never suspected Jason. He's just a victim. He tries his best.
That's funny.
He is swimming against tides that he doesn't even know are there. Like there's just he's
taken
like,
to sea.
He's like trying to do things, and there's just so many things that he has no idea about.
So funny. It's so true.
Or Jason.
Would you let Allison coach your child's soccer team?
Oh, I would probably no. I would be the angry mom. If I was part of the moms that were talking about, like the moms wouldn't be happy. He's like, no, get her away.
Speaking of that scene, Lorenzo and Allison. Why is Lorenzo coming after Allison? Is it innocent? Is it nefarious? Is he just stupid? Is she pretty? Is it also they just like each other?
I don't want to speak ill of Lorenzo yet. Although that could be a thing that comes up. I am enjoying the vibe that Lorenzo brings.
He's just a breath of fresh air.
Exactly.
It's a fresh perspective.
Because it's not even about Lorenzo. It's what Lorenzo represents in the show. And I don't want him to have like an A turn. I mean, it could, and it could still work. But like, there's all these people that are like, Lorenzo. That he's
What do you mean all these people? Just Toby and Allison fighting over Lorenzo.
And that is perfect. That is perfect to me.
It's a love triangle in a way.
It is. And that's where I don't want an Allison Lorenzo romance. But that's where it seems like we're going.
It's kind of like a May-December romance. Like, you're like, I don't want an Allison Lorenzo romance.
I mean, at this point, we're just kind of looking the other way because we're about to hit the time jump. But for all intents and purposes, they are not high schoolers, but they are also high schoolers. So then when they have pair up, it's like as if they're pairing up with regular adults, but then they're not adult. It's whatever. It's, there's the artificiality of it is they're just not. They talk about high school, but they're not really high schoolers when they want to be. And then when they want to have romances, it's always like not at high school because high school isn't a thing anymore. I'm thinking of also like Talia.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't want Lorenzo. I don't like Alenzo as a ship. And the best part about
Lorison? I don't know what the ship name is. It's probably Alenzo.
It's really complicated.
Probably something super simple. We're just like,
and maybe it's just me not like, I don't really want Allison in a ship. Thank you very much.
Is Toby wrong about Allison? Or is he right about Allison? Should we be keeping Lorenzo away from Allison?
I'm wondering if at this point Allison is relatively harmless, but Toby is in the right to be like, why are we suddenly turning the other way? It was like a week ago when Cyrus. What?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's much longer than that, but everything with Cyrus, all the like back channel stuff, lying to the police and things. Like she's got a lot to like work on that she hasn't directly addressed. Like she's only like kind of now starting to say sorry to people. But, I think there's a lot more that Allison needs to like work on and repairing things before. So especially from Toby's perspective, it's like, no. And double on top of that, this is my boyfriend. You back away.
Toby very much loves Lorenzo.
He loves him so much. It's so funny that it's like Lorenzo is stepping out on him in all these scenes, like where he's in the coffee shop, like tailing him. Like, Lorenzo, you didn't come home until late last night. What were you doing?
But do you not think maybe Lorenzo was intentionally talking to Allison there?
Oh, with like the soccer and like at church and things?
I meant like if Toby was watching through the window, do you think that was purely coincidental that Toby was sitting in the coffee shop watching?
Or do you think that Toby is literally like was with Lorenzo or just...
See, like that's what I'm wondering. Like, what are the odds that Toby is sitting alone in the coffee shop while Lorenzo is coaching boys soccer across the street and Allison walks by?
Toby Toby actually first went to go get coffee because Lorenzo was coaching soccer, and then Allison walked by and he's like, God damn it. I just came to Pine from within the Starbucks and you were ruining it.
What do we think?
Sorry, real quick. The last thing is just the look he shoots Spencer. It's like, no.
Like Spencer kicked his dog.
Yeah. Or is it? I mean, she's his girlfriend, but it's like as if she was coming onto his boyfriend. Like, back off. Like, seriously, stay away, you. He's such a jealous boyfriend. It's so good.
What do we think about Andrew being adopted?
This has to play in. I'm of two minds because it could be 50-50 knowing the show. It could be absolutely nothing, just a red herring for this episode, or it could actually be something long term if Andrew's going to stick around. So I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew doesn't stick around.
Speaking
he's
of,
just kind of like served his purpose and like, au revoir, Andrew.
bye-bye. Speaking of Andrew, do we believe him that he was trying to be the hero?
Well, I was like, well, it worked really well with my original theory.
I need a hero.
I'm gonna. There's just a tag on from the other one. I'm gonna go with no.
Do you do believe him or you don't believe him?
I do, but there's more to the story.
Oh.
It's gonna be my guess, mostly because I'm like, maybe it's better to just guess that something is happening rather than being like, again, see you later, Andrew. But it did work really well with my original theory of that he was just being a white knight, which, as we saw before. But is he just doing that to get closer to Arya? I don't know. It's the Campbells are gonna somehow play a role here, and I don't know. Maybe adoption. Maybe, is it gonna have something to do with Charles? Maybe. I don't know.
A little child swap or something.
Charles swap.
Should they tell people about Charles? Because right now they're back where they started. They're not telling the boyfriends. They're not telling the parents. Nobody knows about the Charles thing and that they're getting the texts again.
They're fine to not tell the police, but they should tell everybody else in their lives. The police are not going to help them. But everybody else should at least be in the loop.
And last but not least, do we think they're dressing Allie like that and doing her hair in the way they are because she wants to come off as more respected in town, like more adult, more like she's like a figure that can be trusted?
I like it. I think that's a good read.
Or do you think it was just a bad fashion choice?
It's
for the
bad.
show? She
looks like her mother.
Yeah, that's why I think it's intentional.
Okay. Yeah, Jessica had a certain...
Because blowouts weren't really trendy then.
Right. She wasn't trying to step out on her marriage.
Not even married.
I know. Well, it's because she has a second home.
Oh, that's a fun question for you. After the time jump, do you think any of them are going to be married and or like with their specific respective partners?
I know of one. Or is that
like
that
when
could
the
have
when
the
the
time
like
jump
when
happens?
it starts?
Will any of them be married? Now that Spoby seem to have stayed together, well, one Lorenzo notwithstanding, I could see Spoby ended up married at the end of it after the time jump.
Okay.
That'll be my
like
guess.
when the time jumps and like when 6.5 starts.
Right. 6B.
Like 6.5 because it's 6.5 in my head.
Yeah, 6.5. That works.
That's not correct.
Yeah, that's 6.5.
Yeah, but I mean, the 6.5 would be like season 6, episode 5.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
see
Like
what you mean nomenclature. Got it.
Are you ready for the next episode?
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this one?
No, I'm having a good time. Some good stuff to pull apart with this.
It didn't sound like you were having a good time.
Oh, I was smiling behind the mic.
I know, but it sounded like I'm having a good time. I was like, oh.
The person off screen is telling me.
He's reading his cue cards. I am enjoying myself.
But I was having a great time with these episodes.
Yeah.
I do think the Lorenzo stuff like dynamic's great, and
I forgot about Lorenzo. Because I mean, it's like you have to think like that's such a blip on the show.
Yeah.
Even if he stays for the rest of the show,
no way.
you got 6 seasons of pre-Lorenzo.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's always nice having Jason back because they always give him the wildest stuff.
Jason kind of is like the most fun character, I think, to play.
Yeah, absolutely. He just gets to like grow up, like be all like angry with everybody else, and then like having to be like kind of like softer and like eat crow and nice, or he's embroiled in some wild shit.
What do you think Jason is doing after the time
Not
jump?
the Ashley affair notwithstanding.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
We're gonna little asterisk.
What do you think Jason is doing after the time jump?
Oh my god, is that when he has the shoulder length hair? I've seen the photo. Okay.
Wouldn't you like to know?
I've been waiting for that to come up. What is Jason doing after the time jump? I feel like Jason's gone AWOL. Like, bad shit has happened, and Jason is now like coming back from being like away again. It's like, wow, I heard Jason like lost it, or like he like ran off and like
was
whatever.
drinking in the mountains and
Exactly.
became a bear.
Uh-huh.
He fought a bear. Like
Oh
Archie.
my god, like Archie.
It's a Riverdale kind of episode.
Every time I remember stuff, I forgot about the bear.
I will never forget about Archie fighting the bear.
The shit that they've God, the shit they've had Archie do. It's so funny that there's even the superpower season of like, he can't be beat. It's like, he can't be beat anyway.
You already fought a bear as a human.
That's good stuff.
All right, next episode.
Next episode. Season 6, episode 4, episode 124. Don't look now. Made you look. Allison is meeting with the friends who are pestering her about interrogating her dad. They do this weird thing where it's like she's with the friends and everything, and then they flash back to like her dad telling her the news rather than just giving us that scene. Allison says Charles is her brother, and then we get a flashback to the De Laurentises discussing this. Mr. De Laurentiis says that he was born 15 months before Jason. He was disturbed and became too dangerous by the time Allison was 1. He was institutionalized in Radley. The De Laurentiis originally lived farther away and then moved to Rosewood to be closer to Radley. The parents didn't want to tell their kids and have Charles serve as a distraction. We were hoping Radley would help. Allison says he got worse. He's the one behind all this. Mr. De Laurentiis says he couldn't because Charles is dead.
You know what? This is how you would write that scene in a book. Like if you were having, you would write it with like the action of them telling the friends and then telling them what someone else said. And that would make more sense than like showing it in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like not always. You could just write the scene straightforward and do one after the other. But because you wouldn't want to have 2 scenes of the same thing, which is like them getting the information from someone and then telling it to someone else, you would do it that way in like in a book. So I guess
yeah, that's fair.
It's probably just another way to prevent the repetitive scene too. But
it's I guess the same thing here. But they do that. They shortcut this so much in the show anyway. Of like we get the scene and then the next episode, it's like the friends all going,
mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, like that's like if you're writing this, that's how you do it. So you didn't have that scene happen twice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Unless you wanted to show her inaccuracies, like if he told her one thing and then she told them something else.
Right. I don't really know what it doesn't matter that much. It was just
no, but I was like thinking about it. I was like, huh, that is weird.
Yeah, I could see that in a book. Allison said it just doesn't do anything visually.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, it's just kind of funky visually.
Mm-hmm. Allison here, yeah. Never. Allison, nothing further to add. Allison says Charles killed himself when he was 16. He overdosed on pills. Jessica had him cremated. Hannah says that's a lie. No body, no grave, no proof. Hell yeah, Hannah.
Amen, Hannah.
Allison sticks up for her dad, and Hannah says he was lying a day ago. Why believe him now? Amen, Hannah. Spencer says A cared about the home movies. That's enough to say that he could be alive. Hannah wants to go to Radley to investigate, and Arya's like, we can't. It's closed down. Hannah comes home to Caleb, who says he got the permission to spend the night. Emily compliments Sarah's shorter hair. Pam says Dr. Sullivan can see both of them that day. Sarah's alarmed by this and goes to take a shower. Pam says she needs to speak to someone, and Emily says she's not ready. Pam says, well, you were shooting your dad's gun a day ago, so you're going. Salt in the wound, Pam. Arya searches for Charles's obituary or death certificate online and comes up empty. Byron comes into her room and comments on Arya's new photography obsession. Tanner called and wanted to meet with the girls, but he told her that Arya needed a few more days. He's like, I'm here if you need to talk. Arya's like, I don't need to talk about this ever. I'm going to move forward with my life and get on with my life and just like bury this deep down, and that's how it's going to work. Byron asks them for them to do something together, and Arya says maybe another time. She's going to go to the photo room at Hollis, and he's like, oh, I'll take you there. And she's like, no. Hannah wakes up and finds Caleb sitting in a chair outside by her window. She tells him nothing's going to happen. Caleb's like, you don't know that for sure. And he's been watching the police change shifts, and there was a 15-minute lag time where there was no one monitoring the house. And he's like, I'm going to go down and ask if that's like usual, like unusual, if they need to tighten things up. Spencer's at the brew and finds an article that an investment firm purchased Radley, and there's no immediate plans for the place. Interesting. Chekhov's Radley. Spencer calls someone and finds that the patient files at Radley are being shredded at a new facility. Fitz comes over and checks in. He says the police are going to figure out who's behind this.
Just because they've been so good at that, Ezra.
Yeah, real good hope there. They then notice, the new baker Sabrina comes over, who's like hippie-ish and spacey, so code for being high. Spencer sees a spilled drink on the ground and then has a flashback to waking up covered in blood on the floor of her room in the bunker. And there's like a bunch of blood on the carpet as well. The friends gather and try to come up with a plan to get Charles's file. Spencer says the data center is 20 minutes from here. Hannah says Caleb can drive us, and Emily's like, you can't tell Caleb about this. The friends eventually talk her down, and she's like, okay, I'll go give him an excuse. The other friends agree to meet at the brew in an hour. Spencer goes to the Montgomerys and digs in their trash. She gets a text from Arya that the friends are waiting at the brew for her. Spencer only finds an empty pill bottle. Allison sits with her dad and asks what they did with Charles's ashes. He says Jessica scattered them across the lake and they decided to not have a funeral. Allison is upset by this and asks if they were sad when he died, and her dad says, to be honest, it was a relief. We didn't have to worry anymore. Spencer finds out that the files haven't been shredded yet and they can't come up with a solution for getting inside. They're outside the data center facility. Hannah then notices a bunch of files being loaded on a truck, so they go in through the open shipping and receiving door. They find an empty storage place full of boxes and files, kind of like at the end of later Raiders of the Lost Ark. They split up and look for Charles. Emily and Hannah meet up, and Emily says she saw Dr. Sullivan. Sullivan asked if everything was okay between the four of us, and it's like, well, like, that must have been something that, like, came from you, Hannah. And Hannah's like, well, yeah, it might have. Like, are we? And Spencer's like, we'll get there. Spencer looks into a window and has a flashback to herself being covered in blood. Emily brings her back and says Arya found the file. Apparently, there's only files from when Charles was 13 to 16. He was on severe depression meds. His visitor logs were Jessica and Allison's Aunt Carol, who died when they were all in 10th grade. Someone comes in and they make a break for it. They find disappointed dad Caleb waiting outside. Caleb is extremely dad-coded in this, and they also like dress him kind of like a dad. He's like wearing like kind of like cargo pants and like a button-up shirt with a bomber jacket.
They abandoned emo Caleb, and I'm kind of sad about it.
I know. He's the dad that went to the Warped Tour, and now he just works in the garden. And watches football on Sundays. We get 3 cuts between Hannah, Arya, and Emily's homes. Caleb and Hannah come home, and he says, I don't know why you were there. And she's like, oh, we're there for Spencer's file. Caleb then tells Hannah that he has a tracker on her car, and Hannah's obviously pissed about this and wants it off her car. And then Pam comes into Emily's room and says she found Sarah on the roof. Pam says Sarah's downstairs now, and she thinks that they acted too hastily, letting her stay there, and if something happens to her while she's there, then Pam's responsible. Emily says, I know what she went through, I can help her, and Pam says, you haven't figured out how to help yourself yet. Then we see Sarah listening outside the door. And then at Arya's house, Byron found out that Arya lied about going to the photo studio, and if she's going somewhere tomorrow, he's taking her. Spencer is at the brew, pacing as Sabrina steps out of the back. Spencer asks if she can sell her something to calm her nerves. Sabrina's like, what? And Spencer's like, pot, like a cop. And Sabrina's not... Sabrina being like, I'm not a dealer, but I can bring you like a little baggie of mine, and I'll bring it for you tomorrow.
She says, I don't mind sharing a little of mine. She does not say, I will bring you a little baggie of mine.
She says I'll bring you a little package. That's what she says.
Because she said, I'll bake you a little package, because she had asked for cookies. Yeah,
because then she gets the cookies the next day.
Yeah, she said, I'll bake you a little something.
Straight to edibles.
Yeah. That's much easier to show on television than having to get fake weed for her to smoke. How's Spencer going to smoke weed?
Spencer.
When is Spencer going to smoke
be
weed?
Sitting there being like, these edibles ain't shit. And then 5 minutes later being like, have you ever thought about A actually?
Do you think A is a person?
Right. Emily wakes up and finds Sarah not in her bed. Emily finds a hallway window open. Pam rounds the corner and Emily's like, she's gone.
Okay, I didn't write down a question about this, but like, can you imagine leaving someone's house by scaling their second story window? Like, use the front door.
I know. You're gonna leave anyway. It doesn't really matter. If you think that they don't want you, they aren't gonna come after you. Simple as that. Jason, well, I mean, Sarah's been through a lot, so. Jason and Allison look at a badly photoshopped photo of the two of them. It's very strange when they were like younger. Jason is upset
about. It's uncanny.
It's very weird. Jason, it's because of the lighting. You were kind of pointing this out. I'm like, Jason looks like he's like put like his face onto someone else, and you're like, I think it's just like different lighting, and that's just him when he was younger.
I think it's him when he was younger and a photo of her, and I think they edited the two photos together and put them on the background from his photo, and so I think it got fucked up in the process.
Yeah.
If I was guessing, I have no idea. I don't do photo editing, so this is my uneducated assumption.
Right, because hers looks recent, and his is from when he's younger. If that is the case. Right, it's like obviously very much younger looking Jason, and then Sasha Petir's from like 2 years ago. Jason is upset about being lied to about Charlie, and that he was always doubting himself about this. Yeah, imagine. He says, "I'm having a hard time. No one else in the family did. I'm having a hard time believing that no one else in the family didn't know about Charles." Allison then shows him the Radley file and that Aunt Carol visited him. Jason has a flashback. She went to Aunt Carol's after the elevator attack and then leaving the hospital. He found Jessica there, and he's like, "Oh, Mom, what are you doing here?" And Jessica's like, "Oh, I'm just getting the place ready and nice. We're gonna figure we're gonna hold on to it." And then he's like, "Oh, well, great. I'm hoping I could stay here." And she's like, "You can't do that. There's like plumbing issues." And eventually just like talks him out of not staying there. Her like son that is like obviously like beat up to shit. Jason then goes to leave and hears a crash from within the house. Jessica's like, "Oh, that was just the wind." Back in the present, Allison says maybe Charles was living there. Emily finds Sarah in the brew. Sarah says, "I didn't want to cause problems between you and your mom's right. I do belong in therapy, but I don't want to do that right now. I want to do normal things, like rather than have someone analyze me." And Emily's like, "I understand." Ari's at the photo studio at Hollis when Hannah Tess asks if she's coming to Carol's, and Ari says, "No, my dad's watching me, so I have to stay around." Jason, Allison, and Hannah and Spencer exit the car outside Aunt Carol's house, which looks exactly like the regular De Laurentiis house, except it's blue.
And Ravenswood lighting.
Yes, Ravenswood lighting. I just like that the De Laurentiis family has multiple properties that look the same, but in different places.
Which is, I'm pretty sure, Lorelei's house.
It does look like it, yeah. Allison wonders why Charles would do this. They go inside and find the electricity is turned off. Arya develops photos of dolls in the dark room. She moves a bottle and finds a note from A that says, "You're my doll, bitch." Arya has a flashback to the bunker. On her TV, it says, "Use this or you'll get a surprise." It's a bottle of hair dye on the table, and she yells into the camera. It's like pink hair dye. Like, "I'm not your doll." She wakes up later and finds a note from A on the TV that says, "Use it now or lose it all." And Arya finds that her hair was cut, hence the new haircut. Arya finds the door to the dark. Back in the present, Arya finds the door to the dark room locked. Someone gets her out, and they're like, "It's weird. Someone put a wedge in the door, and that's why you're stuck in there. Hi, my name's Clark." The crew at Aunt Carol's didn't find anything inside, and Jason's like, "Let's check the property before we go." Anna gets a call from Caleb and declines it. Spencer sees a weather vane and has a flashback to the same scene of her covered in blood, and she yells into the camera asking what she did and what did you make me do. Hannah comes up behind her, surprising her, and Spencer asks if Hannah remembers everything Charles made her do. Hannah's like, yes. Spencer's like, "I couldn't go to sleep because every time I was about to, a buzzer would go off until finally it stopped after, like, I think multiple days. Like, it's awful." And she fell asleep. She then woke up with blood all over. Hannah says Charles put in fake blood to make you think you hurt someone. Spencer said, "What if I did hurt somebody?" Again, like, it is terrible what happened to Spencer. That's just an absolute nightmare. Sarah and Emily are out at night alone, and Emily is taking her somewhere for a surprise. Arya compliments Clark's photos, who's trying to get work for Nat Geo someday. He compliments Arya's scary doll photos, and she acts ashamed. He says, you have a great eye. It's okay to put your work out there. Arya gets called away, and Clark hands her a photo to remember him by. Jason and Allison found a headstone for Charles. They call Hannah and Spencer over, and Hannah's like, "This is all set up from A, and I need to start digging." Allison's like, "You can't dig up my dead brother's grave." Which
I've dug up yours before.
Yeah. Jason says, stop digging. It's real. Look at the roots wrapped around the headstone. They've been growing here for years. Allison says, Charles is really dead. People, this is not what that means. The headstone could have been there for forever. Please. Allison says, Anna says, A sent us down the wrong path with the blocks. Spencer says, there's the home movies. A must have a connection with Charles. And A must be somebody Charles knew at Radley. Emily and Sarah swim together, and Sarah is happy to be doing something normal. Sarah swims over to the... We'll come back. Maybe, I don't know if you have questions about this, but...
No.
Okay. I was immediately like, wow, the show is really like, is she a swimmer? I feel like they're all very like queer coded every time like Emily is like in a pool with a woman. But you're like, I don't think this actually ends up in a romance. I just feel like that's where this is going.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it could just be like, it could be that a similar sort of heightened feelings moment too, because it's the first time Sarah's been able to do something normal, like get back in the pool and stuff. So it has that kind of like thank you so much for doing this for me, and like that pouring of emotion on each other. And so then, just because of Emily and Paige swimming laps together in the pool.
Yeah, the pool has been coated with romance and drowning for Emily. Well, and drowning usually leads to romance for Emily. Don't forget Paige tried to drown her. Emily has had very few good partners. Talia was married. Paige tried to drown her. Samara. Samara was fine.
Yeah. And what's her name on Vampire Diaries again? Character name?
He yells her name all the time.
Oh, she's pretty great on that. And she gets severely short shrift.
I haven't watched the originals, but she's in the originals too, because
Rebecca,
yeah, because he yells her name. Yeah, he's class's. Yeah, she's his favorite.
Yeah,
Rebecca.
Oh, good stuff.
So Sarah, a silly, goofy mood tonight, aren't you?
It's just remember good times. Good show.
Finish that show.
Good CW shows specifically. Sarah swims over to the side and says she forgot what it was like to swim. Emily, you gave me that, and nobody's ever looked out for me before. Arya looks through her photos as Byron rounds the corner, so she scoops them all up. She then shows him a picture of her room and says, my room in that place looked exactly like this, but there's no way for me to get out. Talks about how there's like cement walls and things, and cries, and Byron comforts her. Caleb sits at Hannah's dinner table looking disappointed, like crossed arms, like that type of disappointed, like the parent, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Caleb stopped by Spencer's house, but Hannah wasn't there. Where were you? Caleb asks, like, why are you lying to me? Hannah notices his pile of clothes and is like, wait, I don't want you staying here. You're suffocating me. He asks what she needs, and she's like, a little space. He grabs his stuff and leaves. Spencer, I raised you, Hannah. How dare you? Spencer leaves the brew at night as Fitz stops her and asks why she's here so late. And she's like, oh, Sabrina made me cookies. Fitz is like, well, when those wear off, your feelings will still be there, Spencer.
Oh my God, his after school special. You dated a child. Shut up.
It's so funny. We live in such a different world now.
Well, also, like, even then, like 2015 in California, like, I mean, when did they legalize weed? Like 2016, 2017? I was soon after.
Yeah, it was soon after. It has been that long.
Because at that time, wasn't it already legal in Seattle?
2017, maybe.
I don't remember when, but like,
I'm thinking of where we were able to get it, and we
bought it
in Santa Barbara, but we did by the time.
But they didn't have dispensaries in Santa Barbara. That was part of the issue. Was they wouldn't let dispensaries open. It was already legalized, and they wouldn't let them open when we were still there.
Maybe that's it.
Because I remember that being like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think it was a thing.
I think you're right. You can double check in a minute.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
But like, I'm sorry if you're having trouble sleeping and your options are, a nice friendly gummy bear cookie or smoking a bowl or whatever, or taking like a benzo, I'm gonna go with the non-addictive one if it works for you. Yeah. It doesn't work for everyone. Some people get paranoid, they get stressed. There's lots of reasons why weed is not, or marijuana in general, is not the answer for everyone. But if it works for you, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Some of us get severely freaked out watching MasterChef Junior.
Well, we got too high.
Oh, that's terrible.
We
terrible.
We got too high. It was just that edible was a lot stronger than it said.
Mm-hmm.
And that was obtained at a dispensary legally.
Yeah.
And
it
was stressful.
Well,
and then you were getting really stressed, and then I was getting really stressed because you feed off people's emotions, and we literally took like a 0.5 or a 5 milligram, maybe half a 5 milligram. I can't remember.
I don't think we took the whole thing.
Yeah, the gummy, and then we made dinner, and that was fine. And then we sat down to watch MasterChef Junior, and we started getting so stressed about these children and their knives that we had to turn it off.
And it's small, the gummy is smaller than a dime. Like it is tiny little gelatinous cubes.
More importantly, it was 5 milligrams. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I lost my mind.
Well, it wasn't that bad.
I know. There are other times where
I have been in worse scenarios.
Absolutely.
I was just like, I can't enjoy my television program.
Right.
I'm stressed.
But here's also the thing. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So Spencer would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your face.
And it's not addictive.
Yeah.
Like in terms of,
And also, we talked about this off mic when we were watching it too. And it's like, well, medication's there for a reason. She went through trauma. She needs some time. She wasn't allowed to sleep. So.
Yeah.
Let me finish the recap. I have 2 paragraphs. Allison comes home and finds her dad waiting up. She tells him she was at Aunt Carol's. He asks why, and Allison doesn't say. He says, you should know why we put Charles and Radley. When you were 11 months old, Jessica was out in the garden with Jason. I put you in the crib to nap, and I went outside to turn on the grill. I heard you cry, and I ran upstairs and found you in the tub with scalding hot water slowly rising up, and Charles just sitting there watching. We then see a gloved hand watch a GPS tracking of the 4 girls, but not Allison. And then there's an alert going off when Emily is away at the pool and not at their home. The end.
Okay. How can Charles be dead if he kidnapped them?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with Hannah on no body, no proof. They give up so easily, by just looking at the headstone having the vines wrapped around it. It's like the headstone could have been there.
Then is anyone buried there?
Right. There could be nobody there. They don't know.
What do you think?
No. Yeah, I don't think anybody's there. And so it's like, why wouldn't you just dig up? Well, I understand Allison really doesn't want to believe. And Jason is also trying to quickly sort things in his mind. But I'm with Hannah. Let's dig it up. We need to put our peepers on this.
Why aren't there any records for Charles besides ages, what was it, 13 to 16?
16? Yeah.
Where was Charles before and after?
Oh, I was assuming that he was still at Radley, but that brings up a good point that he wouldn't have been. So 16 is when he died. So I'm assuming fake death or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming also that has something to do with Toby's mom and shit. I'm assuming that's how that's gonna all back around. And then did we find out who was up on the roof? Was Bethany up on the roof with Toby's mom?
I think so.
So then Bethany has to have something to do with this. So maybe Bethany is the one that was able to shuffle Charles out of there. And I guess I'm getting into theory corner stuff. And maybe Bethany knew Charles, and that's why Bethany hated Jessica outside of the Jessica affair. That woman.
Jessica was really, I'm not here to slut shame.
She's a woman around here.
But she was making stops and taking visitors. Speaking of visitors, why did Aunt Carol visit Charles?
I'm assuming Aunt Carol felt sorry for the kid that got institutionalized and forgotten by his parents.
Why was Jessica...
So that's what I assume is going on there. And I feel like Jessica also has some sort of soft spot, and that's why Charles is staying with her when Jessica comes there. And so Jessica knows about all this happening and probably also helped set up whatever because she was on the board or highly involved with Radley. So I also wonder if maybe Bethany didn't know that Charles's death was faked, and so that's also partially why Jessica was taking Bethany around. Hypotheses. But yeah, going back actually to the Charles no records thing, I don't I wonder if there's more incriminating stuff about the family or things that like Jessica got removed, or about like what was actually going on with Charles. Because I mean, it could just be like Charles was unstable and they were like showing signs of being a serial killer at a young age, and I go snooze.
Yeah, what do we think about Charles being like the why for Charles being in Radley?
I mean, I feel like this is common enough in things where I think kind of like schlocky things of they were unstable and like
tried to drown your baby sister.
Right. They were violent. And so like we didn't know what to do with them. And then they come back later and try and kill people. I feel like that's like a Michael Myers without the superpowers. Which he doesn't really explicitly have superpowers, I don't think, until like later. But at least like in Halloween 1, I think that's just like what it is. And it's like fine. It's like whatever. But I think because this isn't a horror movie, it's not you can I like don't I like focus on it too much more because it is about like the explanation and the answers in a sense, and the mystery wrapped up in this. Whereas like Halloween, it's just like this is just a vehicle to have like some like scary dude try and like kill people. I got like
vibes.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Jason allowed to just stay at Aunt Carol's? Was Charles in there?
I think Charles is there. Jason seems like, oh, okay, now all is forgiven. Charles was actually dead, so that was the wind. Broke something. Like, that noise is not just the wind. And I would still be, like, so much more suspicious of Jessica. I think Jessica is hiding Charles.
Okay.
Whether at the behest of Charles or on her own. But I would assume with some help. Or not some help, sorry. Offering help on her own.
Makes sense. I accept.
I did like that Jason actually got to like be involved with shit rather than just kind of like off in his own little thing.
Also, Jason gets to know about Charles, but the boyfriends can't know about Charles.
It does affect Jason a lot. And Jason is good at keeping his mouth shut. Toby is a cop.
Dropped an elevator on him.
Yeah, and Caleb should know.
Caleb should know.
Caleb should absolutely know. And also probably Peter and Veronica. If we're talking about like parents, they like get that shit is going on.
Yes.
I mean, Peter's not around, but.
Speaking of Caleb and Caleb's disappointed dad vibes and the girl's getting caught. Should Caleb have tracked Hannah's car?
Absolutely. Well, yes, but with her permission.
Yes, exactly. And not even her permission, just her knowledge. You got taken once, so I'm just going to like track you constantly.
He should be doing that to every single one of them.
If he, like, let's say, like, my friend was dating Caleb and he was like, I'm going to track you. I'm like, put one on me. Air tag me up.
Right, absolutely. Like, do you have like microchips we can inject in your skin? Like anything to help keep them safe because there is someone physically out there for them. So like absolutely do it.
Why didn't he just tell her, and then why doesn't she just tell him about the Charles stuff? See, I hate this. Is part that makes me really mad because like we've done this same plot for 6 fucking seasons. Well, I don't know when Caleb shows up, season 2.
Yeah.
So 5, but
yeah, this is stupid. Why are we like? I hate when they like it's the pull away. We have to pull back away from people that we're close with.
We couldn't just have a happy relationship.
No.
No.
I don't know what that noise was.
It's your voice really cracked.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And because it's like, yeah, obviously it's extremely not cool to track someone without their knowledge. But like in this case, if you had just been like, yeah, hey, everybody should probably have like LoJack on all their cars. Yeah, makes sense. He's already doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are the... Actually, that begs the question. How is A tracking them all?
That's my last question for you, but I have others before that. But you answer that one now.
Oh,
where are the trackers?
Where are the trackers? Okay, so...
Because A is not tracking Sarah Harvey, because we would have seen Sarah with Emily. We assume not Mona, but Mona was out of town, so we don't know. Right. Allison, we didn't see a tracker for Allison.
Which is, you
But
mentioned...
that makes sense because how like, I mean, I guess, is it on their cars? Is it?
Oh, right. And Allison didn't get put into the bunker. So I don't know. I wonder if they do have like a... I mentioned microchips, and I mean, they got like knocked out a lot. So it could be like a...
Like how you microchip a dog?
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's talk about Arya and Spencer's different forms of torture. So we know Hannah had to play they all had to play the switch game, the flip the switch game. We don't really know what else was done to Hannah or Emily so far.
No, not yet.
But we do know that Spencer was made to believe that she was like hurting people and then locked in her room. And Arya's hair got cut. And while that's a huge violation of her personal space and safety, and like that would actually be psychologically scarring, I'm not like actually belittling that in a real sense. In the context of the show, it's almost comical. It's like Arya got a haircut and Spencer thought she committed murder.
And Spencer is in just the blood is soaked in the carpet.
It's soaked in the carpet. It's all over her. It's all over her hands. It's all over her face.
It's intense. And yeah, it is very funny that it's just like, and Arya got a bob.
Yes, which I mean, the trauma alone of being put in the bunker, like there's so many aspects of that are like legitimately traumatizing. And having like waking up and having your hair cut professionally would still be very, concerning.
Yeah.
But
it's the autonomy, because like she can't control not doing it.
She is A's doll.
Yeah.
And Arya is the one that really takes that metaphor and runs with it. Do we think Arya is reclaiming her life and her space through photography?
I think she's just trying to capture her feelings. I think that's what we're trying to like understand. It's like she's trying to capture like the images that she is producing is her
processing.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's like, this is what my room looked like in there.
Here's the doll shoved into the corner of the room, like kind of like how I feel. I don't think she's quite. I think there is a bit of it. So I think it is a good thing, and it is funny that she, not funny, but it is important that she is not turning to words, much like Fitz says right now. That she can't put it to words because that's a different sort of processing. Whereas if she can capture it in a like static image and things, there's a remove between her and the medium there, where she doesn't have to actually generate something. She can just capture the feelings in a space.
And she doesn't have to process that in the same way. Yeah, I like that. That's really clever.
Yeah. And then Spencer's is where we've gone down before, a different lack of control, but a lack of control where you lose yourself and you do something horrible, which is Spencer all the way back even in the books. It's a similar, like the kind of like OCD worry of being a horrible person, and thinking that you would do horrible things if the
that worst, you are the monster.
Exactly, it's your worst fears coming true. Essentially, it's like that proof of the nagging thing back in your head of telling you that you're a terrible person.
And last but not least, which wasn't intended to be my last question, but
right, because I happened to artificially stumble into it.
What do we think of Clark?
He seems nice.
He does seem nice.
I'm like, okay, we can have Clark. We can come in. If I was like, Pretty Little Liars decided to have diversity in its 6th season.
We said diversity this year.
Which all 4. But it's just funny.
The 6 seasons in, they were like, maybe we should add a little bit of non-white.
Exactly. Maybe some of our romantic interests should have some melanin. So it's funny.
Indeed.
But I do like Clark. I hope he sticks around. He's better than Fitz. But the tractor beam of the Ezria stuff is inescapable. So.
Well.
Is it about that time?
It's time for you to take us to your theory corner.
Okay. We do have some stuff to go over today. So, you know what? I was a little worried last week not last week, the week before. Stumbling over some things. We still have plenty to discuss. Let us step into
unearthing some worms.
Good Lord, am I in? I'm just waiting. There's so much anxiety around this. I mean, it's a I had to look this up today because I've heard the term before, but I was going to say it to someone in the context of setting up work for when I'm going to be out.
Mm-hmm.
A sword of Damocles, where it's like something
It's
threatening.
hanging over you.
Exactly.
Because it's dangling over you.
Mm-hmm. And I was like going to use it for something because it's like something threatening might happen. I'm like, well, I don't want to be that pessimistic, I guess. But the A reveal is absolutely a sword of Damocles for this podcast.
Yes, it's looming over you now.
But let us step into Theory Corner. Welcome to Theory Corner. Excuse me. So, first of all, probably want to focus on like what happened with Charles. I don't really like the explanation that it's just like this kind of like violent child from birth. So I think what we're leaning into is that Charles focuses on Allison because Allison, I'm assuming, took a space or some sort of other love that they were not given.
Or the reason they were put in Radley.
That's true too. But there's even before when Allison is put in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but how old was that child? 4?
Yeah.
How'd that child get a baby out of the crib and put them in the bathtub? There's a lot of holes in that to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've met some pretty clever toddlers, but
pretty clever 4-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Might be a bigger gap than 4. I can't remember.
I'm assuming there's like an emotional thing happening there too. And to your point, yes, exactly why they got put in Radley. And so that's why Charles always hated him or hated her. And I think probably focusing on when the time when Allison disappeared, it was almost like a like vindication or something, thinking that like something bad might have happened to Allison. It's like here's like a new point in which like I like Allison almost got what they deserved, and I can like kind of like come into more power. So I feel like maybe that's partially what's going on with also like making the girls revert to that back then. There could also be something that like happened that evening, something that Charles is the one that like orchestrated some of the stuff for like Bethany ending up in there. The Jessica, so yeah, Bethany ending up there, and like it was maybe originally intended for Allison to get in the grave that Bethany happened to be at, and that Bethany was just again supposed to be a distraction while like Allison was disappeared, because it didn't seem like Bethany was supposed to die until Melissa poured dirt on her.
That's one way to say buried alive, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So there's like something there, which then would also how much do I want to go into? Because there's something also that happened around that year. No, I'll leave that out because I know things. So move on from that part. But at least for and I think being put into red, we'll go back with like relationship with the parents. Mr. De Laurentiis wanted nothing to do with Charles, but Jessica felt guilty or had a soft spot, so was always helping Charles. And I feel like Aunt Carol also was like in with that too, of like this child that was being left behind by their parents. And so Jessica maybe knew about things that Charles was doing and knew about Charles, maybe wanted to present Charles with a way of getting out. That when Charles had like things happen. No, sorry. I don't think Jessica actually knew about Charles's plan to fake his death, but Jessica then helped because they didn't want Charles to get in more trouble. And so went along with Charles's plan and help them get out and then do their things. And I think why Charles ended up killing Jessica was that there was a turn where Jessica was no longer helping him. So then Charles essentially closed the loose end that was Jessica. They had some sort of falling out at Aunt Carol's, and like maybe Charles was trying to be too controlling or something. So yeah, all right,
I love it.
That's my best guess.
My next favorite like twist in the show will happen on episode 7. That's what I was looking at. Not
Okay.
twist. Twist is the wrong word. It's like
a little reveal.
Well, it's more like a scene that happens.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like
scene.
It's you're just gonna be like, oh, really?
Interesting. Okay, so there's like more information.
I remember thinking it was funny.
Okay.
It's not a super informative scene. It's just the thing that you're like, oh, okay, huh?
Interesting. So in 2 podcast episodes from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to stay tuned for that one.
You will.
But until then, goodbye.
Well.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other thoughts. Good time with these episodes, I will say. I like them better than probably the first 2. Mm-hmm. I like the silliness.
The silly, goofy mood.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
I just get annoyed when the couples like fight for no reason.
Yeah. It is a really annoying trope. Or it's just really annoying recurring.
It's also like annoying for Hannah to be so mean when also being like, we need to all go to therapy. So you're like if anything, it seems like she's the one that is adjusted. You know what I mean? So it's kind of odd.
That she's just trying
and
to...
I'm not saying anyone has to process trauma perfectly, but like you would think you would get more of that third act Hannah energy again.
Yeah, that's true. I do understand that she's trying to like crowbar it almost, that she's just forcing it. She's like, we have to do this and and then we're going to feel better.
No, but then for her to be mean to Caleb.
Oh. I think it's because she's being forced to be quiet from everybody else.
She's protecting him.
Yeah.
That's how she thinks she can protect him. And it's like, this has never worked before.
Yeah, and she's being forced to keep quiet from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't everybody else being like, can't tell him about Charles, then this would be an extremely different situation.
And I guess maybe she wouldn't, where normally she would just do it anyway, in this case, because she knows that A will punish them and has.
Well, yeah. Well, because she wants to tell him. She's like, Caleb's waiting outside, and everybody's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, fine.
Yeah, which is annoying as hell.
Yeah, so it's not really even her choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because she would.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
we are looking forward to more episodes.
Yeah.
But you can find more episodes of this podcast on all your audio podcast platforms of choice at Dead Ends. You can also find us on YouTube at dead_ends. And like, comment, subscribe. As the YouTubers say, hit that bell, get those notifications for when the new one comes up. Yeah, we're trying it out. I don't know.
You keep trying, baby.
I'll keep trying it out. And, tell people about our podcast. Rate us 5 stars on all your podcast platforms of choice. That'd be great. And then you can also send us emails, questions at deadendspcast@gmail.com or leave a comment on the video. All right, that's it. We're still here, and we're going to find out.
We are. That is true. Well,
we are.
You're going to find out some things.
Huzzah!
And some things you didn't want to know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I already have.
Okay, love you. Bye.